I'm Cristina Janney with the Hayes Post and Eagle Radio, and I'm speaking with Doug Williams of Grow Hayes about FHSU funding cuts on this episode of the Hayes Post podcast. Well, this morning we thought we'd talk a little bit about Fort Hays State University. They're facing some budget cuts. They paused the golf program this week, and they also announced that they were going to have a tuition hike. They kind of framed it that Fort Hays is still pretty affordable compared to the other Regents universities, but they've faced some challenges recently.
They absolutely have, as all major universities have, as higher education across the country faces a lot of challenges for a lot of reasons. This recent one, is a funding situation. They did receive a funding cut from the state of Kansas, and so they've had to make some hard decisions. And one of them was to pause the golf program, and I suspect it won't be the last. There'll be hires they don't make, and there'll be other things that they have to do. But, I think it's important that we remember how important Fort Hays State is to our community. I always refer to it as the crown jewel of the High Plains. We have such an asset here that I think sometimes we take for granted. And the economic impact, the cultural impact that they bring, the vibrancy to a community that the on-campus students bring, and all of the employment just is huge for this community, and we're so lucky to have them. And I also always say, most people don't realize that we have them for free, whereas a town with a junior college, they're going to levy property tax for it. And so those who are anti-property tax need to understand that from a Fort Hays State standpoint, that we don't pay any property tax that goes towards Fort Hays State University. So we're very fortunate to have them, and it is unfortunate that budgetary situations have forced them to make some hard decisions, but hopefully I have no doubt they'll weather the storm and come out better for it.
Well, I can't remember the exact breakdown, but Fort Hays is in the top 5 employers in the Ellis County.
They're number 2.
They're number 2. Okay.
Yes.
We also thought that we'd talk a little bit about a couple of things that happened last night at the city meeting. They moved forward with 2 housing projects. Michael Graham's project at Lincoln is getting an RHID, and they issued the tall grass bonds as well.
Yes, I believe they set a public hearing for Michael Graham's RHID project and the old former Lincoln School project, former Lincoln School site. And we've talked about it before, but we're so fortunate to have somebody like Michael Graham or Justin Prajant, who did the former St. Joseph Grade School property. Michael and Overland Property Group did the former Washington School project. Michael is doing the Lincoln School project by remodeling the inside, but also adding some housing around the outside of it on the former playground. And in so many communities, these buildings sit empty. I look over in Salina, and you see the old St. John's Hospital or whatever it is. That's a huge empty building over there that has been empty for a long time. And that can happen because it's really not very practical to go in and renovate an older structure like that. Extremely expensive. And that's why you need things like an RHID or things like historical tax credits or things like CDBG grants to make it possible, because otherwise you'd never do it. It just wouldn't make any financial sense. And so I believe what they did was set a public hearing for Michael's. There's a process with an RHID, which stands for Reinvestment Housing Incentive District, and you start the process. You have a public hearing, and then you have some other things the hoops that have to be jumped through. But this is one step along the way. And then the tallgrass bonding was just the bonding for the infrastructure on the new Tallgrass Commons Phase 4. That's the 101 lots that are currently under construction. Hess Services is doing the construction work of the streets and sewer and water and that type of thing. And, of course, that's extremely expensive. And Heart of America Development is developing that area. As I noted, there'll be 101 lots. But the city, as they typically do in developments like that, they bond the infrastructure and then they get that back over a period of time, either through RHID revenues in this case or special assessments on other developments. And so the beauty of this development is those who live there, when we talk about affordable housing, the thing everybody wants to argue about, those people will be able to live there without having to pay special assessments, thus making those homes more affordable to live in the Tallgrass Commons Edition.
Well, you've talked a lot about us being behind in housing, but hopefully this will get us a little bit more on an even keel, but it's going to take some time. Michael Graham's project is going to take some time to build out. I think he's doing the ones on the playground area, the new building first, and then doing the renovations inside. And, we're, a couple of years away on the Tallgrass houses actually being up?
Well, we hope a little sooner than that.
A little sooner?
The infrastructure is supposed to be done by November 1st.
Okay.
And then some homes would be able to be started to be constructed shortly thereafter.
Like in 27?
Yes. And
okay.
So we would hope to have a lot of activity in Tallgrass in 2027.
Okay.
Heart of America hopes to build it out in 5 years. That's kind of the development agreement they have with the city, that they get that built out in a 5-year time frame. So that, and it's a lot of lots. It's 101 lots. So that's 20 homes a year that would need to be constructed out there. But the demand that was there for the first 3 phases, if that's any indicator of what exists for the next 101 lots, it will build out that quickly. There's logistical challenges. Building 20 homes a year is not an easy task. In this community, we have a limited number of subcontractors. We have, those who do foundation work and that kind of thing are from outside the community in many cases. So it's a challenge. But I think we've got people who have proven they can do it in the past and will step up and do it there. But in reference to your housing comment, it's kind of like the pendulum. It's never in the middle. The housing situation always swings from one side to the other. We've been in the shortage side for a long, long time. We are seeing a lot of activity that I think could shift that more towards the middle, or even maybe have a little bit of a surplus. But we're not there yet, and it does take time, as you noted. If a developer decides they've got a piece of land today and they want to develop it into lots or what have you, it is about a 2-year time frame by the time you go through and get it platted and get it zoned properly and then get the infrastructure put in and go through that whole process. It is lengthy. So things don't happen very quickly, and that's why you've got to be looking ahead all the time, out 2 or 3 years, trying to anticipate your needs. And so that's what we've tried to do with encourage other developers. Unfortunately, we've had people like Heart of America who have been willing to step up and do that.
How's work going on the Grove?
Going very well. There are currently, I think, 6 homes under construction. 5 of those are sold. Another one sold here this week, and talking to PwC, who's the contractor. And so they'll be starting another one right next to the first 5 that are being built. The model home should be done in about 30 days. And I think that's really going to be a game changer for the development, because when people look at it on paper, and even if they see pictures of homes like that, you really need to walk into them and get a feel for what it's all about. And that's what that model home is going to give us. And so people will be able to walk into it, understand what it's all about. But it's appealing to exactly the market we were hoping it would. Retirees, people who are looking to downsize. Several of these people who have bought homes out there have homes in town that they're selling or will be selling. And so that brings new inventory onto the market. So it's all coming together exactly the way it was supposed to. And I'm really encouraged by what's going on out there.
And Grow Hayes is still working with a developer on the LIHTC project for that one corner. Have they heard anything on that? The
LIHTC projects, there are 4 of them that have made application in Hayes. 2 are out by Walmart and Carico Implement out in North Hayes. One of them is east of the Bright Minds Academy, and then the other one is at the corner of 27th and Canterbury on the property that is part of the Grove. And those decisions are made on July 31st, so we're about a month away. The Kansas Housing Resource Corporation will determine who's going to be the recipients of those LIHTC funds, which stands for Low Income Housing Tax Credits. And again, that's to promote more affordable housing and in our community. So we would be very happy if we got one. We would be ecstatic if we got two. And I can't imagine we could get more than that. But we are kind of, in my opinion, we're kind of due for one of the Overland Property Group type projects. And the one at the corner of 27th and Canterbury in the Grove is a little bit unique. They're duplexes. They're focused only for seniors, 55 and older, at a very effective price point. They're 2-bedroom units with garage. And I think there would be high demand in Hayes. They did one in Russell here recently, and I think there will be very high demand here for those rental units at the price point that they'll be at. So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Well, I know those are very competitive, but we would hope that we would get at least one of those projects. I think that lower income housing is really needed here in Hayes. Yeah,
I think, and particularly because in this particular case with the group that's doing it, they're a group out of Great Bend called Housing Opportunities, Inc., and they have projects across southwest Kansas, Great Bend, Scott City, St. John, some other communities down in that area, and they do a really good job. They're a not-for-profit, and so I think the niche that it will fit will be very appropriate for the Grove, being a 55 and older. The Grove isn't 55 and older, but that's who has the most interest in it, and so I think it would fit in really well. So we're very hopeful that that'll be what happens, and we'll find out in about a month.